Hello everybody, welcome back to a long-awaited video. I know you all have been, look at that hair. It doesn't always do what I want it to, but you know, what can you do? My long-awaited return. As you saw on my community page, or maybe you didn't, I was in Williamsburg, Virginia for the last week. Today is June 22nd. I just got home about an hour ago. We were there from Saturday to Saturday. My extended family on my mom's side always go on a big summer vacation, usually around this week in June. And there were 21 of us this year. It was a great time. Very hot, humid. If you don't know anything about Virginia, we are known for some humid summers. But we are also known for concerts. That was my segue to tell you. I saw a concert that I was not expecting to even attend yesterday, June 21st, in downtown Colonial Williamsburg. Obviously, on a history standpoint, Colonial Williamsburg, really one of the first major cities in the United States. It's less than 10 or 15 minutes from Jamestown, which is the first English settlement in the United States. Williamsburg was the capital for a while of the original colonies. It's a huge tourist destination. But anyway, they usually have a summer concert series downtown outside. And this year, one of the groups they had were, and I put this in quotes, the Beach Boys. Now, obviously, you're thinking, why are you putting it in quotes if you don't know anything about the Beach Boys' history? Well, I'm here to tell you. The Beach Boys have had a long history of members coming in and out of the group. Obviously, there are two big Beach Boy camps. You have the people that love, the surf stuff, the hot rod stuff, the songs about girls, and French bikinis, as the song goes. And then you have the people that are into the Beach Boys because of what they accomplished in the studio. Specifically with their leader, Brian Wilson, who I had the high privilege of seeing back in 2016 with Al Jardine in Roanoke. They were doing the Pet Sounds 50th tour. They did Pet Sounds in its entirety, and it was awesome. Blondie Chaplin, who was a later day Beach Boys member, was also there for several of the songs. But anyway, really since the late 90s, the Beach Boys have been a touring band, really exclusively. Carl Wilson passed away, I think, in 1997 or 98, and with him dying, Al Jardine also left the group, and essentially it was just Mike Love, original member, frontman of especially the early years, and then Bruce Johnston, who joined the Beach Boys in 1965. I believe his first recording session was California Girls. And then toured with them pretty much ever since. There were a few years that he was not in the group, but he did come back, and he's been with Mike ever since. So they toured for years and years and years. The Beach Boys did eventually reunite the survivors, put out this fantastic album. My phone is flipped, so my camera's on this side. It's called That's Why God Made the Radio. First original Beach Boys album since the 80s, I believe. And you have David Marks, who was on the first 5 Beach Boys albums as their lead guitarist. Al Jardine, obviously original member. Mike Love, Brian Wilson, the man, and then Bruce Johnston right here. This is a fantastic album if you don't know it, especially if you listen to like the last few Beach Boys albums before this, and you're like, why would I want to hear a Beach Boys album from 2012? I promise you, you will have a really great listen with this. The last 4 songs especially are just masterful Brian Wilson, pop perfection, symphonic, kind of in a medley style. And there's also just some great, it's a mix of, the beach kind of tunes with like Spring Vacation, Daybreak Over the Ocean, and then you have, just some Brian Wilson symphony magic there. But anyway, this is the last Beach Boys album. It was in conjunction with their 50th anniversary. And then after this tour, Mike essentially said to David, Brian, and Al, y'all are out of the band. I'm going to keep touring, playing state fairs, playing theme parks. Even though Brian Wilson was already working on follow-up music to this album, some of which ended up on his album No Peer Pressure, which came out, I believe, 2 years later. And anyway, so from really late 2012 onward, the Beach Boys went back to the Mike Love and Bruce Johnston show. And that's who I saw in Colonial Williamsburg. So a little backstory. I knew the Beach Boys were going to be there. They were in Roanoke on the 18th. They had their boy John Stamos with them from Full House, Uncle Jesse. And he was on a select number of dates with them in the early part of this tour. And I think he's going to join up with them later on in August or so. But they were playing as part of the Virginia Arts Festival in Colonial Williamsburg. And so I decided that I was going to go down to Colonial Williamsburg and see if I could find a fence to lean up against and listen to the music without paying, because I really didn't want to give Mike Love $1 of my money, just because I am Team Brian Wilson all the way. So I went down to Colonial Williamsburg with my mom. She was kind of interested to hear what was going on. We got there a little early, not realizing that the show was going to start later on. And there was a volunteer directing foot traffic to the line. And I asked him, because the show had been sold out, for several, probably at least a week. And I asked the volunteer, I was like, do you think that there are tickets? Do you know where I can stand, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I know it's sold out. He's like, I wish you were here earlier. Somebody was trying to give one away. And, he's like, you probably could have snagged it. I was like, oh, shoot, whatever. So I asked another volunteer. She kind of said the same thing. But she said, if you go to the will call office right at the gate, she said maybe they'll have something that they can give you. So I went to the will call office, just kind of curious, because I was like, if I can get in for free, that would be pretty cool. And so I stood in line. There was a lady in front of me who was getting her tickets printed, and she kind of overheard me talking to one of the other workers, asking about tickets. She had a friend who did not make the show, so she was going to essentially have to burn the ticket. And she was like, do you need a ticket? And I was like, yeah, I was looking for one. And so she cut me a heck of a deal on a ticket, much cheaper ticket than what she paid for. I had the cash on me, and she's like, it's your lucky day, here's a ticket. So I gave her the money, so I didn't give Mike Love anything. So I was like, I can live with myself doing this. So I got the ticket, told my mom, grabbed myself a quick hamburger, and then went inside the venue. Again, outdoor venue, big circus type tent. This ticket was a general admission lawn, which is something that I would never buy. But again, this lady gave me, a really, really good deal. I didn't have a chair, so I stood up the whole time. Again, full house. I think they said there were over 5,000 people there to fit in this space. Obviously, there's food trucks and, all that kind of stuff, drinks and ice cream. So they came out. They opened with Do It Again, the big kind of return to their beach glory days. I think that song came out in 1968. Don't kill me if that date is wrong. It was either 68 or 69. I think it was 68. And they did all the hits that you want to hear. I mean, they had 2 sets. Mike Love's son Christian was in the group. He did a song, an original song that he put out. They did a version of Rockaway Beach by the Ramones, because Mike said that the Ramones had done a version of Surfing Safari, so they wanted to return the favor. I'm sure he says that every single night. But I mean, they did all. I mean, I Get Around, Little Honda, Surfer Girl, Surfing Safari, Surfing USA, California Girls, Good Vibrations, Kokomo, God Only Knows, Sloop John B, Wouldn't It Be Nice. They did some deeper cuts like I Can Hear Music, the cover that Carl Wilson sings so beautifully by the Ronettes. They did You're So Good to Me. They did Darlin'. They did Wild Honey. They did Do You Want to Dance, the Bobby Freeman cover. Bruce Johnson actually sang that tune. Keep in mind, Bruce is 81, I believe, and Mike is 83. From a non-judgmental standpoint, I thought Mike sounded pretty good vocally. He sings a little bit softer. You can watch videos on YouTube. His voice is softer. Bruce's voice is a little bit more fragile. But they both sang, I thought, pretty well. Especially comparing their voices to, a Paul McCartney, who I still love. I love his voice even still. But, they've pretty much have the same voices that they've always had, just a little bit maybe of a lower and weaker register. And then, they're in their early 80s. So leaving the show, I felt good to have heard the Beach Boys tunes that Mike sang lead on live. I'm very happy I got to hear I Get Around and to hear California Girls, Do It Again, sung by Mike Love, who originally sang those tunes. I thought it was cool to hear God Only Knows and to hear Bruce sing his part, because he sings that middle part at the end, that God only knows what I'd be without. And then Bruce is the second voice, God only knows what he's kind of right there in the middle. So to hear Bruce sing that part live is cool. God Only Knows, as you know, is my favorite song of all time. Pet Sounds is my favorite album of all time. That being said, I kept comparing the show to seeing Brian Wilson in 2016. It did not bother me to hear Brian Wilson sing Mike Love tunes. It did not bother me to hear Brian Wilson sing Little Deuce Coupe and to sing, I Get Around and Do It Again and California Girls. It bothered me to hear Mike's band sing God Only Knows, to sing Don't Worry Baby, to sing, what are some other ones? Surfer Girl. Simply because or Help Me Rhonda. That was probably the worst song of the night for me. It was sung by Christian. Obviously originally sung by Al Jardine. But to hear them do those songs, something about it, again, it's one thing if it is, a Beach Boys cover band, or, there are a lot of factors, and I might even do a video about my in-depth thoughts on the Beach Boys. But to hear those songs done by Mike's band just didn't quite do it for me. Again, had circumstances been different, maybe I would give them more grace. But there's been a lot in the last, 50 years that Mike Love has said and done that have just rubbed me the wrong way. And that's the part of the show where I was like, people are dancing and singing to, Good Vibrations and singing, to God Only Knows and Help Me Rhonda. But I'm like, these guys, vocally, the background singers and the musicians, musically they sounded fine. Just the vocals, like the guy, I can't remember his name, I think it was Brian Eisminger or something was his name, Eichminger, singing the falsetto parts just didn't quite do it for me. Whereas with the Brian Wilson show, Al Jardine's son, Matt, sang the falsetto. And I was perfectly okay with that. But something about the Mike Love show, and then seeing like the Beach Boys videos behind them, from the past with Brian, with Al, with David Marks, who are all three still alive, albeit Brian is no longer able to tour, but he was touring the last 20 years or so, but not with Mike Love. So I'm like, what would it have been like had Brian been with them, have him and Mike not had their tiffs, mostly Mike, and to have Al still with the group? What could have been? So the whole time I was listening to those songs, I was like, But again, very cool to hear him sing, I Get Around and, California Girls. To hear the Mike Love vocals on that is very cool because those are huge songs that I love. This probably doesn't make sense to people that don't get the Beach Boys or that are just not that big into them like I am. Let me know your thoughts. I could keep rambling. Overall, it was a good time. I would probably rank it a 6 out of 10. Just because, again, I got to hear a lot of those great songs sung by the original singer, Mike Love. Very cool. And I got to see Bruce, which is cool. So until now, I've seen all but David Marks in terms of like the Beach Boys that are still alive. I've seen Brian and Al at their show with Blondie Chaplin. I've seen Bruce and Mike. I just haven't seen David Marks. And Ricky Fattar is still out there too. But anyway, all that to say, I'm glad I got to see it. Thank you to that lady who gave me the tickets, whatever your name is. If you happen to see this, I appreciate it. Very, very kind. And let me know what y'all think. Let me know if you've seen Mike and Bruce in this configuration. I'd love to know your thoughts. So anyway, in the meantime, y'all be good. Take care. Stay cool. It is over 100 degrees here today with the humidity. Brutal. And we'll talk to the next one. Bye now.